Advertising campaign management. The hierarchy of effects model consists of 6 steps. According to the model, these steps are sequential and consumers spend time at each step. For instance, before a consumer can like a brand, they first must become aware of it and develop some knowledge of it. To develop brand loyalty, consumers must go through all 6 steps. It is similar to attitude formation and the cognitive, affective, and conative sequence. Awareness and knowledge are the cognitive component of attitude. Liking, preference, and conviction are the affective component. The conative component of attitude is the purchase. The second theory that's important to consider is the means-end theory. The basic concept is that a means, or the message, leads to an end state, or personal value. The actual name of the theory is means-end conceptualization of components of advertising strategy. The model suggests that product attributes lead to consumer benefits, which in turn connect to personal values. To illustrate this, let's consider milk. So an attribute of milk is that it's low fat, and it provides the benefit of health. The personal values consumers receive from good health are self-respect and wisdom. Another attribute, calcium, provides the benefit of healthy bones, which in turn leads to a comfortable life and shows wisdom on the part of the consumer. The key to a means-end chain is looking at the benefits each attribute generates, then connecting those benefits to various personal values. So some examples of personal values could be security, pleasure, self-fulfillment, salvation, fun, happiness, personal accomplishment, equality, freedom. Most ads seek to have a balance between visual and verbal, but usually one will be more dominant than the other. In recent years, advertisers have seen a move to more visuals and less emphasis on verbal content. One reason for the change is that visual processing is easier for consumers to recall. Visuals are stored in the brain both as pictures as well as words. Concrete images tend to be remembered better than abstract visuals. If consumers can create a mental image or picture, it is actually superior to seeing the visual in terms of recall. So radio ads, for example, can make listeners use their imagination and picture the product, and that works very well. Visual Esperanto is the ability of a visual to transcend cultures and languages by conveying the same meaning. So an example of that would be a shared family moment. Everyone from around the world can identify with the visual of that. It is especially beneficial in international ads, where advertisers want to convey the same meaning to every market in the world. Business-to-business ads in the past really emphasized verbal content, but they as well in recent years have moved to more visuals. A number of factors influence the relationship between promotions and sales. The goal of the promotion may be to increase brand awareness or build brand image. If so, there's going to be less of an impact on sales than with some other objectives. Threshold effects are present at the point where the advertising or the communication begins to affect consumer responses in a positive direction. So, for example, when BMW motorcycle ads began targeting females, the initial impact was minimal. But after some time passed, the ads began to have some impact on inquiries by females and later on sales revenue. Carryover effects refer to an ad's message being remembered or carried over to the time when the product is needed and the consumer is thinking about the purchase. So for example, advertising for a refrigerator may not be recalled until the consumer has a need for a new refrigerator, and then they recall the ad that they had seen. Wear out effects occur when an ad or message becomes old and stale and the consumers no longer pay attention to it. It just becomes noise in the background. Decay effects occur when a company quits advertising and the brand name begins to fade in people's memories. Sales can also be impacted by just random events such as a major snowstorm, which can be really beneficial for a company like Ace Hardware or Home Depot. Companies have to decide whether they themselves are going to perform the advertising work in-house or look outside of themselves and hire an outside advertising agency. There's advantages to both strategies. With an in-house staff, normally costs are lower. It's easier to ensure a consistent brand message across campaigns and products within the company. In-house staff have a better understanding of the product and the mission of the company. They usually work closer with the CEO. With in-house, moving from creative to production is normally faster since the company has direct control of the employees. And there's also lower turnover in the creative team, which provides greater consistency across the campaigns. Outside agencies also offer some advantages. Costs may be lower if the in-house team lacks the expertise and a lot of time and effort is wasted in doing the work. So for example, perhaps an outside agency are really experts in media buying and they can do the work in 2 days that would have taken the in-house marketing team 2 weeks to do. Outside agencies have greater expertise and an outsider's perspective, which can be really valuable if you're trying to think outside of the box and generating new ideas. With agencies, firms may have access to some of the top talent, and while it may cost more to use an agency, the superior work produced is normally worth the price. If company leaders want to make sure that an integrated approach is used in marketing communications, the best approach would be to hire a full service agency as opposed to an agency that just offers one part or one function of marketing. So for example, relying on an agency just to do the media buying as opposed to all the other responsibilities that fall under that advertising umbrella. Choosing an ad agency requires time and effort on part of the company. So while companies can shortcut the process, such an approach often results in the best agency not being hired. So the first step is to identify what are your goals. Then the company should decide on a process and criteria before contacting any agencies. Once proposals have been received, the list can be narrowed down then to 2 or 3 viable agencies. At that point, a creative pitch is then requested from each of the agencies to determine who the best choice is. Advertising goals are derived from the communication objectives. So they tie directly back into that piece. Advertising objectives include building brand awareness, informing consumers, persuading them about a brand, supporting other marketing efforts like couponing or a contest, as well as encouraging action or making a purchase. One of the challenging tasks of advertising management is to select the media that will be used. It's important to pick the right combination of media by understanding the media habits of the target market and then matching those habits with the audience characteristics of each media. This process is used in business-to-business media as well as consumer media. Because of the importance of placing ads in the right media, companies are now involving media companies at an earlier stage of the ad development process, rather than after the campaign has already been completed. Taglines are connected with brands and sometimes are better known than a brand's logo. It's a key phrase that should tell what the brand is about, and it should be memorable and convey something that's unique. The tagline should be consistent across multiple media platforms, and over time we have noticed that taglines have become shorter. Revising taglines, that can be a tricky thing and really needs to be managed carefully. Repeatedly seeing a specific visual image, headline, copy, or tagline, that all helps embed a brand into a person's long-term memory. This visual consistency is especially important in moving an ad to long-term memory. Repetition enhances both ad recall as well as brand recall. Variability theory states that seeing an ad in different environments enhances recall and recognition. And advertisers can vary the ad content while maintaining consistency across the campaign. Different media can also be used. So seeing an ad on television and then in a magazine or billboard, that all enhances recall more than seeing multiple ads within the same medium. So only on television, for example. Positioning is the way in which a brand is perceived by the consumer. It's important to remember that this is in the mind of the consumer, not what the organization believes they are representing. So maintaining consistent product positioning throughout a brand's life makes it easier for individuals to embed the brand with their cognitive map. Consistent positioning, this helps avoid ambiguity and it provides a clear, consistent message that is always the same. The goal of an ad campaign is to embed the brand and the message into a person's long-term memory and cognitive map structure. If the campaign is too short, it prevents or slows down retention, which can also lead to greater costs. If the campaign is too long, it can become stale and the consumers will ignore the message. It's also possible the campaign can create negative feelings from hearing it too much. For most campaigns, about 6 months is effective, but there's exceptions. Some campaigns last for years with only minor adjustments. Other campaigns wear out sooner. The last step in advertising management is writing a creative brief. The appearance of briefs will vary among ad agencies and clients, but most contain 5 elements: the objective of the campaign, the target audience, the message theme, any support that can be used, as well as any constraints. It is a document used by the creative team at the agency to prepare the advertising campaign. So it needs to be clear and provide enough information so that the creative team understands what the client wants. Approximately 62% of advertising budgets are spent outside of the United States. The 2 major differences are the process of selecting an agency and the preparation needed for an international advertising campaign. Pre-planning will also vary across countries. When developing a global ad campaign, you have to pay close attention to not only language, but also cultural differences. Translating to another language, it's not enough, it's not sufficient. Media selection is also going to vary in other countries. The mix that is used in the US is not the same as it would be in, say, Japan, Peru, Spain, or Germany.